Well, I want to thank my good friend for yielding, and certainly want to thank my colleague, Mr. Lundgren, the chairman, for his leadership over the course of these many years. It is indeed one of the highest honors and privileges of my life to be able to represent the people of Illinois' 10th Congressional District in this esteemed body. I've always remembered who I worked for and what they wanted to see accomplished, and the importance of bringing thoughtful, independent leadership to the Congress. When I first ran, I saw far too many people, far too many Americans that were struggling out of work in a tough economy. And as a small business owner, I certainly understand firsthand the pressures that small business owners, family businesses, were facing all across the country. I felt that the government, the federal government, was making it harder and harder for me to put the key in the door and open up my business each and every day. And frankly, they should be doing quite the opposite. We here should be trying to make it easier for businesses to open up their doors, easier for them to hire that next individual. I've talked at length in this chamber about my Main Street jobs agenda, with its focus on pro-growth tax reform, increasing exports and manufacturing, access to capital for small businesses, making investments in infrastructure, utilizing domestic energy resources, the importance of STEM education, and implementing smarter regulations as opposed to simply more of them. I do believe that this is the best recipe to move our country forward and to get our economy back on track. Now, there is certainly much more work to be done in the future, but I do want to recognize two important areas and important steps that we have taken in the 112th Congress. This chamber has advanced, and I have been proud to support a framework for tax reform that is focused on economic growth and providing much-needed tax relief to the American families. The realization of this tax reform will be essential in helping our economy reach its full potential in the future. I'm also proud of the work that we've been able to do to promote domestic manufacturing, exports, and jobs created by them. As the second largest manufacturing congressional district in the nation, we know how important it is to have trade agreements, and the ones that we pass with Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. And we're already seeing the positive impact that these agreements are having today for jobs back at home. Now, I'd also like to take this time to highlight a number of more locally focused achievements, specifically noteworthy for the people of Illinois' 10th Congressional District. For nearly 20 years, we've been working closely with the local coalition of stakeholders and the Army Corps of Engineers, with the U.S. EPA and the Illinois EPA, to try to clean up Waukegan Harbor, to delist it as an area of concern, something that is the gateway for Lake County to the Great Lakes. I'm pleased to say that that cleanup has begun, and we are going to delist that, and that did happen under our watch, something that a number of us are very, very proud of. Of vital interest to every person in the 10th District is our transportation system. In this Congress, we passed a 2-year transportation bill, one which I can say is good and fair for our district. I fought hard and, yes, even broke with the party when it felt that the legislation was drafted would jeopardize our priorities and the people in the district. Fortunately, these concerns were remedied in the final legislation, and I'm proud that we were able to come together in a bipartisan fashion to pass a transportation bill. I also want to highlight the Stock Act, which included some legislation that I had fought for, my no pensions for felons language. This provision strengthened existing federal law to ensure that taxpayers are not funding congressional pensions for lawmakers convicted of public corruption charges. As residents of Illinois are all too familiar with our recent governor, Rod Blagojevich, this provision has special meaning, unfortunately, to the constituents of Illinois. But interests of the people of the 10th District, and I would argue of our country, obviously carry beyond our own borders. I was proud to lead an effort early in showing a commitment of the House freshmen to make sure that foreign aid in this early budgetary crisis would not be jeopardized for our one true ally in the Middle East, the State of Israel. This included showing some support for what has now become widely known as the Iron Dome rocket defense system. But our focus in the Middle East certainly has not stopped there. We've gone to great lengths in this Congress to zero in on what I believe is the greatest threat we have to our own national security, and that is a nuclear-armed Iran. I've been pleased to team with Representative Ted Deutsch and Senator Kirk on a number of bills to stem this and confront this threat. Our actions have ranged from strengthening sanctions on Iran's energy sector to promoting human rights and democracy inside Iran, and much more. In fact, one of our most important accomplishments in this Congress will have been a strong sanctions package which passed both houses this summer and which included these provisions that we authored. Finally, I'd like to highlight the ongoing work to pass a bipartisan budget agreement. This is an initiative that I have been proud to advance, starting with a bipartisan letter urging the Super Committee to go big, to put everything on the table, with a debt reduction agreement that puts literally everything that people don't want to talk about out into the open and on the table to try to structure a deal that will, in essence, put our economy on a course to fiscal solvency. I certainly look forward to continuing these bipartisan efforts. And yet again, we find ourselves today at the fiscal cliff. Just today, I had an opportunity to sit down with Erskine Bowles and Alan Simpson, other members of the Brave 38 who voted for the only bipartisan budget to come to the floor in, I guess, a generation. I certainly hope that we can come together and talk about something bigger solutions, not deals. We want solutions to the problems we face because that's what the American public, I believe, need. Governing in democracy is not easy. It requires compromise. It requires working together. But as I've often said, putting people before politics and progress before partisanship is the only way that we can truly move this country forward and to have a better future. I thank the gentleman, and I yield back.